Hey, I'm Jen,
I'm Natalie,
and this is Vodka Culture.
where, we drink vodka and talk about culture.
Cheers.
Yum, yum, yum.
So, one particular subject that Natalie and I are very passionate about is hi puppy, the topic of online bullying.
Well, yeah, I would say, bullying in general, but online,
Yes.
because of social media, it's been so prevalent now on people, and I think people don't think it matters as much because, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
And that's
Not true.
bullshit. Yeah.
So we've tried to make this this before, and it never works out. So take 3.
Yes. Yeah. We're doing this early enough where,
We've only had a few sips.
yeah.
That is the downfall of doing a podcast where you drink vodka.
Right.
Eventually, you're like, let's just listen to 90s music.
Right. Well, I do like it when we are buzzed or drunk,
Yeah.
because then we're much less inhibited and say what we really think. But the problem with the last time that we tried to do this was we could not figure out the direction that we wanted
I also
to
think
take
when you're
this
this
in.
passionate about it, you have to take it more seriously. And when when you're a little tipsy, you're like, and then this happened, and it's so mean.
Yes.
So anyway,
Yeah, where to begin? Well, I suppose we can talk in general about the concept of bullying. When I was growing up, I experienced bullying in school, and it definitely had a profound impact on me. Where,
was it talking mean to your face, or was it like pushing and shoving?
it wasn't physical.
Did they take your books and throw them on the ground like they do on TV shows?
No, it wasn't anything that pronounced. But it was a lot of shit talking. It was a lot of alienation, and then I did have people play tricks on me to get a laugh, from the group.
And you were 12 though, right? Or
oh no, this was elementary school.
Yeah.
It was elementary through junior high, and I got to a point where I'd had enough of it, and actually decided to not give a fuck and not just embrace being an outcast, but almost actively
pursue that. I
did the whole goth thing, and I would intentionally.
Sorry, I'm just waiting for him to run out.
I know. Puppy's off his chain. Yeah, I would I kind of started to embrace it as my identity, as a coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to make fun of me anyway, so I'm going to go to extremes. I'm, I don't know what the whole psychology of that was, but I think you understand where I'm coming from with that. Yeah, as an adult, I still carry the psychological remnants of that, in the sense that now because of being excluded and made fun of for most of my life, I have this compulsion that I have to do something, have some achievement on a very grand level, in order to find my validation and redemption. It's not enough for me to just live a normal life. I have to do something great to make up for all those people who discounted me. I need to have the world love me.
Okay. That isn't not to cut you off. But I was going to say, that happened to you when you're in elementary through junior high. And the hope always is, at least I think the hope always is, that they're going to then grow up and then they won't be like that anymore. The bullies will mature and they will be secure with themselves, or whatever the reasons of the bullying are. That won't happen. And I think, we still see, bullying in the workplace or in wherever. But I think the advent of social media made it so much easier, or just the internet in general, but also social media, made it so much easier to talk about people or to say mean things to people, because you could do it behind your computer screen.
Right.
So you wouldn't risk the chance of getting hit when you said something mean to somebody.
Yeah, and not that I condone violence or anything, but I tell you, when I look back on things, my biggest regret is that I never hit anybody. I wish I would have thrown a punch when people were being horrible to me. But I was so passive, which is probably a big part of the reason that I did get bullied, was because I was so passive. And they could get away with it. I really wish I would have thrown a punch. Anyway,
that's bullying for you.
Yeah.
Bullying 101. And then how it progresses. I don't know, you see it so much, especially on like Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. You'll post something, and then somebody will reply and say, "I hate this," and obviously not in those words, something more, usually longer than that or whatever. And my always thought is, then why didn't you just keep moving? Why did you feel the need to say something at all? It's one thing to disagree with somebody and to say, "Hey, you know what? I don't know if that's true. This is how I feel about something." It's another to say, "Well, you're a stupid piece of shit. That's stupid. I can't believe you would say that. You should go kill yourself."
Right.
What? All I said was it was a beautiful day outside. But usually it's more complex than that. But really? That's what we've come to as a society. And if you read online articles, and I'm sure people have done it, like go to yahoo.com or CNN.com and read articles where people can comment. The things people comment on, half the time I'm like, dude, that person doesn't really believe that. They're just trolling and saying this to cause something. And the other people, I'm like, don't you really? Like, if this is how you feel, did you read the article? Because you seem to be commenting just on the headline and you have no idea what the article was about. But also, is this what you do all day? Do you sit in your house or your mom's house and all day and just comment on news stories and tell everybody else how dumb they are and how righteous you are? And and it goes for everything. I mean, you go from politics and religion, which are the big ones, but into looks. I mean, the amount of women bashing other women on social media is just appalling to me.
Yep. And I don't know if we've told the story previously. We probably have. About how we've talked about it in our live video cast, but about like on my Facebook.
Oh no, we tried to talk about it in the first one we did this and it didn't work out so well.
Yeah,
so we didn't actually put it out there.
So there was a time on my Facebook where I was just getting a lot of shit for
posting things, and yes, there were some times, for full disclosure, there were sometimes you said things that were sometimes a little provocative, not in the way of like, hey, whatever. But I have a lot of friends on Facebook, maybe not a lot, but I have quite a few who say things intentionally provocative that get like 100 likes, they get comments or whatever. And with you, I just remember being like, wow, I've never ever seen this before. The amount of stuff people would feel comfortable saying. And I don't know if that's just because you had so many friends on Facebook that you weren't really close to them, so they felt comfortable saying that. I don't know what your
the thing that was frustrating me is that these were people that I was not particularly close to. We had mutual friends. We, sort of ran in the same groups. But these were not people that I was hanging out with. And they felt comfortable on the internet to just attack me.
And say, and I just remember reading some of them, and you didn't comment at first because we weren't that good of friends. I mean, we knew each other from work. We had worked together briefly. I liked you. I followed you because I was very interested in your journey going to Boston, going to Harvard. I followed all your posts. I liked a lot of them. I commented, just in good fun. But then sometimes people would say things, and I didn't really say anything. I was like, this is really bizarre. And then finally, I did. There was a post about you being cranky at the airport.
Yes.
So she's like, it's a bad day. I'm at the airport, and I sit down, and then somebody spills a drink on my Louis Vuitton purse, which was kind of like a rant we all make. And if you are sitting here listening and saying, "Oh, I never do that on Facebook," you're lying. I consider myself a pretty positive person. I try not to complain a lot. And I vent on Facebook quite a bit. This is the worst week of my life. I can't believe this is happening to me. When I know that people have it worse, okay? But you did that, and I remember making before you could pick the likes. I remember laughing at the status, being like, I've been there. Airports. All I could think was airports suck. Traveling can suck. Flight gets delayed. They get canceled. That sucks. But every comment, for the most part, was, I cannot believe you're so materialistic posting about your Louis Vuitton bag as if we care that you have a Louis Vuitton bag.
Yeah.
Did you not understand the point of the post? It was baffling to me. And that was the first time. I didn't comment. I wrote on her wall. And I was like, girl, because she said, your last comment was, that's it, maybe I'll just stop. I'm just going to stop posting things on Facebook or something to that effect.
Yeah.
And I wrote a post and it goes, don't listen to them. It's your Facebook wall. You post whatever you want and ignore them. That is ridiculous. But then to make you feel like you can't say what you want on your own Facebook page.
Right. Yeah, that is a huge frustration of mine. It's my Facebook. Now I understand, like, if I go to your Facebook and get into some shit there, maybe I should have shut the fuck up.
Or maybe
on my Facebook, I can say whatever the hell I want, and if you don't like it, keep moving. Or have an intelligent conversation with me about why you disagree. And I embrace that, especially like with a lot of these political posts. Which, by the way, I actually refuse to post about politics up until this current election, because I feel that what's going on is of extreme significance. But anyway, I'll make these political posts, and when people disagree with me and can express it intelligently, I'm totally cool with that. Like, yes, let's have the conversation. Let's further the discourse. Let's
have a dialogue.
Help inform one another.
We're not all supposed to agree. I said this to her earlier before we started this. If we all agreed, not only would our lives be boring, but nothing would happen. We wouldn't move forward. We wouldn't progress. Nothing. We wouldn't have a conversation. We wouldn't be able to see other viewpoints. We wouldn't learn. Where's your dog?
It's right here.
Okay, good. Sorry. We wouldn't grow as people or as a society. So we need to disagree, but we need to do it nicely, civilly, and intelligently. Like, you don't have to call somebody names, bash them, try to make them feel bad because what they believe is different than what you believe.
Right. And and it's surprising to me that the most upsetting comments that I've gotten have actually not been on polarizing posts. They've been on rather innocent things. Before I wrote and recorded my album, I for years have done little singing videos on Facebook. And back when people were really being assholes to me, I can remember somebody being like, you should keep your day job. Dude, I'm just having fun here and trying to share my fun with you other people. Why do you have to take that below the belt shot? That's so rude. But really where you and I came together, like as friends, was on a post I made about wanting tickets to the Swan Lake. I was living in Boston. The Swan Lake Ballet was showing, and I really wanted to go. And so I made a post, hey, does anybody have the hookup on tickets to Swan Lake? I'll get a really pretty dress, and we can go together. And the responses that I got were someone implying that I was soliciting
for Swan Lake tickets.
that I was prostituting myself. I distinctly remember a comment that was like, if you can afford a nice dress, then you can afford your own tickets. I was just blown away.
Well, and not only
like,
that,
where does that shit come from?
And this, I mean, if we want to talk about the posts or the comments that were just kind of not disagreeing, but one person said, I think you can get cheap tickets as a student through this, which was a nice comment. She was just giving help in case you really don't think you can afford them. Here's the idea. That's not bad. It was the comments like, you don't have to be a whore to go to the play. And then somebody was like, hey, I actually do have 2 tickets that I was looking for somebody to go with. Hello, that's why social media, that's what I love about it. You can connect with people.
That's the whole thing there is, yes, the connection through social media where, like, I can post something like, hey, does anybody have experience with this? Or, hey, does anybody have a recommendation on that? Or from time to time, hey, do you have a hookup on ballet tickets?
And so some guy was like, hey, I actually do have 2 tickets. I was looking for somebody to go with. Let's go. Perfect, done. And people kept commenting, and finally at the end, I was like, well, it seems like it's win-win for both parties. He had an extra ticket. He needed somebody to go with. She needed a ticket to go, and now they're going, why? We're done, right?
Yeah.
End of pose. Accomplished. And it was just things like that. And I was going to comment about your thing about the politics. I previously used to post tons of things about politics. Not necessarily to tell people why I think is right, but more to get people involved. When you're 18 to 30-year-olds are pretty apathetic when it comes to politics. And I was trying to get people involved in the conversation. This is what's happening. Do you know this is what's happening? Do you know this is going down? Read about this. Let's talk. What are your opinions? And I got a lot of crap from that, mostly, honestly, from my extended family. But a lot of crap from people about posting things. And I ended up making my Facebook followers a very small group of people. Not people that only agreed with me, but people that were respectful. My Twitter is open. I have a blog that I have open for people. And Instagram is open. I don't privatize any of those. Anybody that wants to be my friend or follow me can. But Facebook, I limited it. I think I have like 102 to 150 people that follow me on Facebook because I just couldn't stand people that couldn't have a respectful conversation. But the opposite happened with me this cycle. I was like, you know what? I'm not posting anything on Facebook about politics, about this current election. I do post it on my other forums, and I talk about it like on this podcast and our live cast that we do. But Facebook, I mean, there's some general things I post, but not specifics because I just couldn't. I didn't want to get involved in a Facebook squabble with people over not just disagreeing with me, but over thinking that I'm an idiot somehow because I don't quote know what's really going on. And if another person tells me to look something up, I have looked a lot. I researched things before I post them. You could have also researched something and came to a different conclusion or different opinion. Let's talk about that. But don't say that you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. You should really look it up. To me, that's very condescending. Maybe you should ask, hey, have you researched this? Do you know what, this is my take on it. And I could say, oh my gosh, no, I didn't know that part of it. That would be a discourse we could have, but not, well, I can't believe you think that. You're an idiot. You should really do your research.
You know, so on that topic, I've heard things about how Twitter is like the worst place for bullying. I haven't experienced that. What I have seen though is YouTube. People are horrific on YouTube, and have been to me. Just as a side note, like one of my first YouTube videos was on the subject of Harvard versus University of Phoenix. And I was just comparing and contrasting with no particular opinion. I didn't even know if anyone was going to watch it. I had so many people just saying horrific things to me because...
Like, she doesn't even go to Harvard,
She doesn't even go to Harvard. She must be high. You're an elitist bitch. You're a cunt, you know.
But I watched the video because I actually was really interested in your take on it.
And there was nothing particularly polarizing about
you said good things about the online school, how good it was for you and how it got you out of your slump.
And absolutely. University of Phoenix totally provided an opportunity for me to re-enter higher education. And I got a degree from them. And, like, it was great. But I just found it... The video wasn't necessarily meant to disparage University of Phoenix. What it was meant to do was talk about how awesome Harvard is by talking about, you know, these were the kind of assignments that I had at UOP, but this is what we had going on in my first Harvard class, you know.
That's a fairly common opinion, though, because I know I graduated from the U of M, which wasn't, you know, a Ivy League school by any means, but it was tough. And then I went to a community college later for my paralegal certificate, and it was like being back in high school. And that's not saying that college wasn't good. I learned a lot, and I got a certificate, which led me to the career I have now, and I'm glad I did it, but it was much harder at the U of M, Minnesota.
Yeah.
That doesn't make me an elitist. That just means
and the thing is, I just, like, I couldn't believe that people were so upset about it, because to me it seems obvious comparing Harvard, the #1 school in the country and loved around the world, to a for-profit online school. I mean, like, this shouldn't be a point of contention.
And the rudest comment,
people were so angry.
And the rudest comment you got had nothing to do about your story. It was like, I want to, and I'm going to say the actual words because I think it matters. I want to fuck you with your glasses on or something like, I want to
fuck your tight pink little pussy.
And you're like, and then you said something about you wanted to I want to cut your nuts off or something. I guess neither one of us will get what we want or something like that.
Yes.
But what does that have to do at all? Like, she just went out of his way to say something
absurd,
rude and obscene.
So I was clearly having a very bad experience with YouTube. But then recently, I wrote and recorded a song and made a video called "Fuck You, Donald Trump," and it's kind of tongue in cheek, but anyway, I won't go into the specifics of it. You can YouTube it. It's called "Fuck You, Donald Trump," and there was. And I didn't get any likes on it, but I got a lot of dislikes and some comments that were like, you know, we'll see how you feel when we lose this country. I won't share my food with your fat ass, you know. And
when the Mexicans take all our jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then there was someone else who was like, you don't know a damn thing, blah 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 blah. And there was all this terrible spelling in it, and I was in a mood, and so my response was like, you know, I would have loved to have responded to anything specific that you might have had to say, but all I can say is that you should learn how to spell before you tell someone that they don't know anything. Well, this particular person actually said, you know what, I'm really sorry for that.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you can understand how emotional this discussion is, and it's easy for things to get out of hand. And at that point, I was like, okay, I can talk to this person. And I was like, you know what, I completely understand how heated things are right now. Why don't you tell me specifically, like, what policies Donald Trump has that you support? Like, what? Just tell me why you support Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And we started having a conversation. And he made some points, and I was like, you know what? I see that, and I can't disagree with you there. You're right. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it was so refreshing that on a platform where there is so much vitriol and bullying and grotesque commentary,
Mm-hmm.
it was so refreshing that there was someone who was like, you know what, hey, I got a little upset.
Yeah.
You know, and I got carried away, and then was actually willing to speak with me,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was willing to speak with him, and I assume it was a guy. They usually are.
Yeah, which is also kind of weird.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about that. What you know, the profile of the online bully. Now, you had said to me that
this is a little. This is a little provocative as well. But I was telling her that when I read certain comments, like on CNN articles, and because of the things they say, some of the stuff is so like out of this like realm of reality that 50% of me thinks, oh my gosh, this person doesn't believe anything they're saying. They're just a troll. They're trying to stir up something. Then the other 50% of me is like, the picture I have in my head of this person is a middle-aged white man living in his parents' basement with pants on, like sweatpants on that doesn't have pockets. I know the pocket thing, but I'm like, because I remember saying, put on some pants with some pockets and go out and visit the three-dimensional people and learn a little bit about something, because I swear these people are stuck and that's a whole other conversation, about people who are stuck in certain, nicks and crannies of the country that maybe aren't exposed to a lot of different things
Mm-hmm.
and people. But listen to people. If you actually listen, you may not agree with what they say, but if you already have your mind made up, there's very few topics I have. There are a few that I have that you won't know. I don't believe you could ever change my mind on. There's nothing you can do, for example, to convince me that abortion should be illegal. You're never going to be able to convince me of that. Don't try. Let's just agree to disagree. You're never going to convince me. But there are other things that I would definitely be willing to talk to you about and having conversations, because I don't know either. Like, for example, gun control. I do not have an answer for that. I don't know what to do. I'm not saying we should ban all guns. And this is getting completely off topic.
No, but
that's just an example of something that I'd be willing on something on the other side.
That's a subject
to have a conversation with me.
That's a subject where it is so important that we be able to have a respectful, intelligent dialogue, because it is such a complex thing. But so often people are stuck in their own mindsets out of some kind of fear of what specifically, I'm not always sure. But, to conflate gun control with they want to take away our guns is incorrect. It's
also
incorrect. But yes, more to the point, it's important that we be able to have conversations about it, rather than just being like, fuck you, bitch, I'll shoot you in the face if you try to take my gun.
Well, and also just not willing to even, when repeating yourself over and over again does not make it right. You can say certain things that you believe to be true, but just saying it out loud with no facts to back it up does not make it true. I can say a lot of things. I could say something and then be like, it's true, and then just keep saying it over and over again. That doesn't make it true. And that's what people do a lot on you know, on the internet or social media. They just say something, and when you have the audacity to ask them, source, please, where did you get this information from? They just respond and repeat the exact same thing they already said, which doesn't what.
And I confess, I'm totally guilty of that. I'm a person where, you know, perhaps it's a product of my white privilege, where I think that because I've been educated and because I've studied psychology and philosophy and because I'm empathetic, the conclusions I come to must be valid. And I will say things because I've thought about them a lot. I haven't necessarily read about them, but I've thought about them a lot, and I think the conclusion I've come to, that must be right.
Well, one was about Amy Klobuchar on Twitter had written that something about the guy who bought with the antibiotics raised the zip, I don't use them, the pen EpiPen. She said somehow this is a disgrace to whatever. Very generic. I don't think she probably wrote. Probably some office intern wrote this. A very generic statement about these EpiPen and how it was a crisis or whatever. And I was reading some of the comments, and somebody commented and said, "Oh, great! Another right Amy Klobuchar is trying to take from us." So I responded and I said, "Please give me." I was like, "Please tell me what rights Amy Klobuchar has tried to take away from you, and remember, be specific." No response.
Yep.
And I'm not saying I'm not saying she hasn't. You may have a different opinion. Give me it, but I want an example of it. You can't just say something that antagonistic or that, out there and not have something to back it up. You can't just say something because it's like, oh, that sounds good. Yeah, that's probably what's happening.
And I feel like when you can't give when you make a comment like that and you can't give specifics, it mainly comes down to, like, your comment is motivated by the fact that you don't like the person.
Exactly. That's my whole point.
And that's all it is. And you're making, like, grand claims just because you don't like someone. Fuck you.
And the one that was like, there's no racism in America. Last time I checked, a black man was president, and the richest paid athlete was also black. And the best was somebody commented and said, "You do know that there are more than 2 black people in America, right?" Like, so because of that stat, and so their assumption based on those 2 statistics was that, well, then there must be racism because we pay athletes well.
Now, I have heard that the place where online bullying is the worst is in the gaming community. Like people who the massive multiplayer.
Oh yeah,
online,
like Call of Duty or something.
I
don't play those, so I guess I don't know.
And I don't either. But I've heard that within the game community, like in the gameplay itself, and then also on reviews of games, women have horrible female players or female reviewers have horrible things said about them. And one thing I heard, and I learned this from watching John Oliver. Love John Oliver.
Yeah,
the best. This woman, someone had commented to her, "I want to stick an egg in your vaginal cavity and punch it."
Well, that's great.
It is incredibly prevalent in that gaming community where rape threats are made. Perhaps more so in the gaming community than in any other community or on any other platform. Rape threats are so prevalent. And what the fuck is that shit?
I don't even know I don't know how it is now, but I know that because I don't play video games, but in the past I have dated men who played video games. And there's a few video games that were actually tailored as that was one of the aspect of it was to you stole a girl's car, raped her, and then ran off their car or something. Like
that was Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, and that was a part of the game.
Oh, punching prostitutes in Grand Theft Auto, or running them over.
Part of the play, and like it's normal behavior. And I have never been one to blame music, movies, or TV or video games for somebody's whatever. But when you make it that common, when it can happen and there's no consequences, and you see it all the time, and you're playing it all the time, and it gets in your brain all the time, eventually. It does. I'm sorry. You lose it. It lessens the wow factor. We become. What's the word? Desensitized.
Yeah.
I mean, every time you hear about a school shooting, we're just like, oh, another day in America. That's what happens. Like it's no longer like, holy crap, what happened? And I think in video games, or in movies, if you see it happening all the time, there's just normal behavior. It's nothing new. It's just how the world is. And you just become content with it being that way. And it's scary to me.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot to be said about like the psychological profile there. When children are regularly exposed to that kind of content, then yes, it absolutely desensitizes them, warps their mind, gives them a skewed perspective of reality. I find it so I don't blame the media or entertainment industry for violence. To be completely frank, I blame the parents.
Well, that I also blame our education in our society.
Because children should not be exposed to this material. And there's an excellent, I'm a big fan of the Hollywood Reporter showrunner roundtables that they do every Emmy season. And a few years back, there was a roundtable with, it was Kevin Williamson, known for the Scream movies. I can't remember was it The Following? That was his TV show that got nominated. And D.B. Weiss from Game of Thrones, one of the two showrunners for Game of Thrones. The guy that runs Homeland. Matt Weiner for Mad Men. And then there might have been another person. And then Aaron Sorkin for The Newsroom. And the opening question was about the violence in TV and the culpability, what is the culpability, if any, and how the fuck did we get on this topic of conversation? I'll somehow meander and bring this around back to the point.
When people talk,
Kevin Williamson was like, I just want to tell my stories. I want to tell my stories. And it was either him or one of the other writers that was like, there are TV ratings that they say TVMA. And parents need to know that if your kid is with you, that's not the time to watch the show. This is not for children to watch. But I think that
and it's also important not to discredit things like that because it happens, and so it should be a lot of things you learn from. I mean, you watch shows like The Wire, and
I'm watching Oz right. I finished watching The Wire, and I'm into season 3 or season 4 of Oz, and it's incredibly informative.
Well, that you learn a lot from. This is what happens. I mean, this is Baltimore. That is what people go through. This is life, and you should be sheltered from it. We should all learn this is really happening, but not an 8-year-old.
Right, exactly. So there is nothing wrong with the content of our entertainment. The issue is the age of exposure. And if you are, and I think there's just so much apathy and laziness.
Well, you have to be intelligent enough to be able to critically think. Because if you have to know that it's not just about the sex, it's not just about the drugs, it's not just about the violence. There's a story behind it. But when you're 7, you can't
exactly.
You can't say
so.
Yeah,
I think the reason that so many children are being allowed to watch this material is because of this pervading apathy and laziness in society. Like, yes, life is hard. Yes, you work your job all day, and then you got to come home to your kids and be a parent, and you just want to watch your shows. And fuck it, whatever. And that's how kids are getting exposed to material that they don't have the intellectual ability to understand. This is fantasy. This is not reality.
Well, then to bring it back to online bullying, what they copy, what they imitate, what they see. So they're watching TV and they hear somebody say, "Fuck you, you bitch motherfucker, bang bang," and so that's all they remember. They don't remember the story behind it, and then they go on somebody's Facebook page or they go to school. They say, "Fuck you, motherfucker," and they repeat it because that's what they've seen. That's what it's known for, and that's what they get. I mean, so I think that does play a part in online bullying because it goes back to the old age question: is art imitating life or is life imitating art?
Right, because I think where we're seeing the huge issue in cyberbullying right now is with kids, with teenagers. Teenagers are being provoked to suicide because of the horrific nature of the cyberbullying. And like I said, I was bullied growing up, but at least when the school day was over, I could go home
Mm-hmm.
and escape from it, and I didn't have to deal with it anymore. I mean, my brother was an asshole to me,
But that's different.
I could go sit in my room and have my reprieve. Today, kids suffer the bullying at school. They go home, they sit in their rooms, they want to play their video games or play on their Facebook or play on their Twitter, and there's more of it. It's just incessant bullying, and there's no reprieve, there's no escape.
And let's just, to be fair, as you know, they see adults do it too. I mean, adults, when you see your mother or father yelling at somebody else or being a bully, or you see, maybe not your parents, but you see it out the park, or you see it becomes normal. That's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
To get your way, you yell, you scream.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
you watch TV shows with this stuff, and like, let's be clear, like, TV shows are not necessarily reflective of actual conversations. Yeah. They're created for dramatic purposes. Well, yeah, and even like it's too like there's things don't get to be happy and people get along in TV because then you don't have drama. You don't have a show. You get canceled. Like, you know, and so the way that people talk to one another on TV shows is for dramatic tension, but kids are looking at it thinking like, oh, this is the way adults talk to each other.
Well, then they see it too. I remember working in retail, and the parents who would complain and yell at the retail workers that to get their way, they would stomp their feet and shout. And I'd be like, you do know your kids are watching you right now. And they're learning that the way you get your way in life is to scream at other people and to be mean to other people and to be rude and disrespectful. They're watching you. They're all of 4 and you don't think they care, but they're paying attention to you throwing a fit because you want your $12.99 back, and they're witnessing this argument, and they learn that the way they're going to get their way is to act like that too.
Yeah, to that point, I mean, I know some people might think it's cop-out for me to blame parents, but I absolutely do blame the parent, because the fact of the matter is, just coming from, you know, a psychological perspective, people are the product of intersection of biology and environment.
But their environment also takes them out of their parent. I mean, they're going to go to school for hours and they're not going to be there.
But your initial model for how to be a person and exist in the world comes from your parents.
Well, I was going to say you leave your environment, you go to school, or you go out in the real world, and then your parent, if you have, you know, in my opinion, that's why you should have an open door policy where you can talk to me. I was always able to talk to my parents about anything that happened at school or anything that went on. And so that's how you learn. You grow like, okay, this happened, and then you go through a lesson and you learn it. It was not like Full House in my life. I was every day, by the way. I gotta admit, it sound like it. But if you're able to talk and you're able to communicate and you're able to learn, and that's why I said earlier very briefly, education is always also a very big part. It has to be something where people are able to learn and understand critical, thinking and mind, and be able to distinguish between the real and the fake, I guess.
But I mean, there's been so much said about, the psychological profile of a bully. When we talk about school bullying, generally speaking, he's right here. Generally speaking, that bully comes from an either neglectful or abusive household. Bullying is their attempt. First of all, a lot of times they're reenacting the behavior they see at home. With the way that dad suppresses mom or mom suppresses dad. They're reenacting that behavior. And also there is a desire to regain control, to experience some sense of control, because home is so chaotic and unpredictable, and they feel so powerless in that environment, that when they go to school, there is a desire to feel power through bullying. And I believe that remains true for what we're seeing from adults in cyberbullying, is that they feel powerless in their jobs. They feel powerless in their lives. Someone else has made them feel powerless, and there's an attempt to regain some semblance of power by hurting another person, by asserting some form of dominance.
Or some people, some people on cyberbullying are just so convinced of their ways, but they don't know how to intelligently explain their conviction. So instead of defending it, and they just lash out at other people. So when they're forced to, when people say, I don't think that's true, they say, well, fuck you. Okay, that was not the response I was looking for, but they don't know how to articulate their
Yep.
beliefs, so they just lash out at
Yep.
people.
It does go back to critical thinking, the ability to think intelligently. It goes to, do you know how to manage your emotions?
Mm-hmm.
And it also goes
Just
to,
to be a nice-
what has been your influence in how to express yourself.
Just be nice.
Yes, that's Natalie's solution.
But no, it's not. No, that's a very simplistic way.
I know the last few times that we tried to do this podcast, where we started really fumbling, was like, what's the solution? And I really do believe that the solution, I don't know what to do about current bullying. Frankly, I think that if somebody makes a legitimate threat against you, like, I'm going to rape you, or I'm going to murder you, or, some of this stuff, you should screen cap it and probably send it to the authorities. I really do think that we need to start imposing laws on cyberbullying. Yes, obviously, as a writer, as an artist, I'm all about the First Amendment and my freedom of
and
speech.
against censorship,
But there are limits. There are things that you should not be legally allowed to say to people, and there should be some kind of punitive response.
well, you can't.
So I propose that.
You can't, but people, the way our justice system is worked out is you can't be punished for something until you actually do it. So you saying something mean to somebody is, there's going to be a fine line between.
Well, I think we have to create the laws.
Yeah.
I think there aren't there laws about harassment.
Yeah, they're very difficult. Yes, yes.
And I think we're at a point where there's minimal precedent, but it's time to create the precedent.
Well, and I agree with you. I just think that sometimes I want to make sure we go at it very, very carefully.
Well, and I'm hearing right now that there was I guess a Playboy playmate who Snapchatted a video of a woman changing in a gym and did body shamed her, and she's actually facing charges. And I think that should be a thing. That might end up being our precedent. That was completely rooted in an invasion of privacy and horrific, and we shouldn't do that. And my other solution is, we need to focus on the future generations. And if you're going to have a kid, be an active parent. Recognize that your behavior is going to be emulated. Try to set a good example. Don't fight in front of the kids. Restrict, to some degree, what they watch, what they're exposed to.
Or be there and be able to educate them as they're watching it. There were shows I watched with her, but my mom was always there to talk about what we're seeing and what that means. So,
yeah.
Anyways, we're open to conversation. Give us your opinion. What do you think the solution are? As long as you're not mean about it, we can have a conversation.
Yeah, we would absolutely love to hear your perspective on the topic. This is one of those complex things that
difference of opinions is going to be very, very helpful.
Exactly. We need to have these conversations in order to move toward progress and to try to find a common solution. Until next time, I'm Jen.
I'm Natalie.
Drink up.
Cheers.